All right, guys, welcome back to another voiceover breakdown. This time I'm going to be looking at one of my favorite saddle counters. And this isn't something that you're going to want to necessarily do right off the hop. This is something I think if you're getting used to leg locks, I wouldn't rush into right away. This is one I think that you can start to play with a little bit more when you start to feel a little more comfortable in leg lock positions. Your defense is good, your general escapes are good, and I think that's the time to start to sort of play with these escapes because, in my opinion, here you're sort of playing with fire. You're staying in the pocket. You're looking to trade sort of punches, so to speak. And so if you're not careful in these exchanges, you still are very vulnerable to the heel hook yourself. Okay, so that's just a caveat to this. If you're going to play with this, play with it with a partner that you trust and somebody that isn't going to try to rip your leg off, okay? So I just want to get that out there because the potential for you to get heel hooked is still pretty high in this situation. And of course, your opponent can move on and counter and do other things as well. But this is something that I've actually had a ton of success with, even against some of the highest level leg lockers that I've ever trained with. Okay, so we're going to look at this. It sort of starts off as the same sort of escape that we looked at last week. If you want to check that video out, I will leave a link in the description box where I talk about how to defend and escape the saddle. So it starts very similarly here. What I'm going to do basically is I need to change the angle here. So I need to get my opponent off of his left hip, and I need to force him all the way to his right hip. And so I have to kind of sit up in order to do this. And you'll see here what I'm going to do is use my leg right there. I say using momentum to sit up. I use my left leg here as sort of like a pendulum. I kick it back, then kick it forward. It gives me enough momentum to try to sit up. Okay, if I don't do that and I just try to sit up like I'm doing a crunch or something, it's very difficult. So I do suggest you really kick that leg to help you sit up. Okay, so you can see that I'm starting to sit up here. You'll notice that my right arm there is posted on his knee. So as we move through here to the next slide, bang, right there. So I say change the angle here and hide the heel, okay? So you'll notice, like I said, I got my opponent from his left hip all the way to his right hip. And what I'm doing with my right arm is also stiff arming his knees forward. So I do want his knees sort of flat on the mat. So you'll notice that it's a weaker position for him, and as I stiff arm his legs like this, my knee line can start to clear just a little bit even at this point, okay? So if I was going to escape from here, I would do some other things, but this is sort of where we're going to trade off into this next position, okay? The other thing that's super important here is that you have to hide your heel, okay? You'll notice my right leg, the instep of my foot is flat on the ground, and I'm doing a bit of a hamstring curl motion here. I'm trying to tuck my heel basically against the side of his rib cage or his body because I'm in a lot of danger here. If my opponent, if I was lazy with my leg position, he'd be able to scoop that heel and finish what's probably the most devastating leg lock is the inside heel hook, okay? So you throughout this whole sequence, I'm going to say it over and over again, you have to keep your heel hidden the entire time, okay? And don't worry, I will remind you as we go through here, okay? So I forced him to the other side. I'm stiff-arming his knees forward and as flat as possible against the mat. And now is where we start to change gears here, okay? You'll notice what I do with my left leg here, okay? I call it leg pummeling to the inside position. So all I've done is taken my bottom left leg there, and I've taken my shin slash ankle, and I've put it underneath my opponent's bottom leg, okay? So what we're doing here is sort of getting inside position on my opponent's bottom leg, okay? Again, make sure you hide your heel during this whole time, okay? If your opponent makes a move here and changes, he could still heel hook you, and you're not going to be happy, okay? So keep that instep flat on the ground, okay? The next step here is I'm going to get a 2-on-1 grip on my opponent's leg, okay? So I stress this because I need to have good control of that bottom leg to pull it towards me, as you'll see in a second. So I like to grip around the knee, and I like to get my second grip kind of around, his shin slash ankle there. But I need to have good control of his leg, and you'll see why here in a second, okay? Again, my instep is still flat on the mat. I'm still tucking my heel, still hiding it. And you'll notice what I do here now is it's sort of a dynamic movement. I pull that, look, I pull his bottom leg to my hip line, and I kick my left bottom leg all the way through, okay? And I need to do this kind of in a bit of an explosive way, because you'll notice now I've taken my instep flat off the ground and I'm crossing my legs here, okay? So as I kick my bottom leg through, it gives me a bit of momentum to free my right leg, and I triangle my legs here, okay? The reason I have to do this is because if my opponent gets my heel here, I'm still in danger of the inside heel hook, okay? So I'm turning the tables on him here, so to speak. So now I've got his right leg trapped, and I'm crossing my ankles and hiding my own right heel so that he cannot scoop it, get a bite on it to heel hook me, okay? Super important. You'll notice that as I fall to the side here, I triangle my leg right about there, so I'm really protecting my right heel. That's the biggest vulnerability for me in this position, is my right heel, okay? I know I've said it 1,000 times, but it's super important. Protect your heel at all times during this counter, okay? So now, setting up the inside heel hook, this is where you could look at it from a couple ways. I could attack initially the outside heel hook, but I find it harder to finish, and it's easier for my opponent to escape, okay? So what I like to do is surf his leg across my body so that it becomes an inverted heel hook of my own. And to be honest, this is kind of a dead zone. It's really hard for your opponent to get out of here. So I prefer to take his leg and surf it across my body so that I have the inside heel hook of my own. I think it's a far more powerful submission. And in my experience, when I do this, I have a harder time finishing the outside heel hook. Okay, so you'll notice that I took his leg that was on my left hip and I've passed it across my body, so now it's on my right hip. Okay, and that gives me the inside heel hook. Much stronger position. Okay, so I get a bite on his heel here, and you'll notice I say sort of checkmate. Of course, it's not 100% dead to rights, but I'd say when I get here, it's high 90s. I have very few people escape this. And why? Well, if you notice the configuration of our legs here, his top leg is completely trapped, okay? The way I've sort of entangled my legs with him here is he can't just simply free his top leg, which is his secondary leg. And so he can't kick out, he can't really roll, he can't really rotate. And now that I've surfed his leg across, I have a nice bite on his heel. So his left leg is trapped, and his right leg now is in deep danger with the inside heel hook, and escaping from here is so hard, okay? But again, you'll notice that I have my legs crossed, okay? If I get lazy here, the inside heel hook is still in play for my opponent at all times, so you have to be really careful, okay? So I'm always crossing my legs, and just because I have a bite on his heel here, if he goes to try to unlock my legs to attack, it's far too late. All I have to really do is sort of add a little bit of bridging pressure, and it's game over, okay? So we've laced it up here, and we'll look at this from another angle, and there's the tap. Okay, so I sit up here, force him to the other side. I'm pummeling my leg. I pull it to my hip line, and here's a better look at sort of my my foot position here, okay? I say protect your heel at all times because I've said it already 10,000 times, but you'll notice that I triangle my legs here. You can cross your ankles, but I think a triangle is stronger. It's much harder for your opponent to break open and try to expose your heel, okay? So again, if I'm lazy here, my opponent can still counter me with an inside heel hook of his own, okay? And here's where I was saying that before I surf it, I could attack the outside heel hook here, but I just find it a less threatening submission generally, and I find that my opponent can still sort of hide his heel. It's difficult to get a good bite on it here, so I prefer to now surf it across my body. As you'll see here, again, I take a 2-on-1 grip. I don't want to lose my opponent's leg here, okay? He can start to sort of, retract his knee a bit. It's difficult to do, but 2 hands on 1 limb is always better control. I also sort of extend my body. You'll notice my shoulders are on the mat here because I want to open up space for it to be able to go across my hips, okay? If I'm sitting up here, my own torso is sort of a barrier in the way. So I lean back, I pass it across my body here, and then you notice I sit up to close that space off, okay? So I sit up to attack the heel because now it's much harder for him to take his leg and put it to my outside hip again, okay? So I'm taking that space away. And we'll go over the finishing details here a little bit. I basically just get a really nice butterfly grip on his heel. It's really tight. There's no space. You can gable grip. There's lots of different grips. But to finish it, I'm basically pulling his heel more towards my nose, okay? And I don't need to explosively roll to my left, okay? I'm going to create tension by pulling his heel towards my nose. And all I have to do here is just slowly recline back and to my left, and it creates a ton of torque and braking pressure. And you'll find that you don't need a whole lot of movement here to finish the heel hook. Both his legs are trapped. It's a very, very deep heel hook. And again, you're going to get a tap relatively easily. It's so hard for them to escape, okay? So that's basically a look at it, guys. One of my favorite saddle counters. Go easy on it. Train it with a partner that you're comfortable with and you trust. And again, I do encourage you to get better at general leg lock escapes before you dive into counters, because you're probably going to get tapped out a lot if you don't even know how to get out and you start to try to counter. So this is a bit more of an advanced technique, but one that I've had a ton of success with. So I hope you like the voiceover breakdowns, guys. If you do, please leave a comment below. Let me know what you think. Please like the video. Please share it. Please subscribe to the channel. I appreciate all the support. Hope you got something out of it, guys, and I will see you in the next video.